thing is not showing up.
Yeah, it's just 6 o'clock now. I just hit it.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
Hello.
Okay, bye.
Hello.
Oh, you got the good Bible, huh? One of these?
Yes, I did.
Yes.
I'm in the club.
She's in the club now.
I got the
If you
SPXX.
if you keep coming, we'll
Whatever.
teach you the secret handshake.
Oh, very good. Very good.
SRPQ.
Oh, you bought SPQR?
Yeah,
Isn't it good?
very good. She's a
She's
great writer.
Yeah.
She knows how to put the narrative on it, and she makes it sound like it's our day.
Yeah.
We're living in that time.
It's really, I mean, even the part about the 600 years before Julius Caesar, before the became a monarchy, where they had the kings, and how the kings came up with a big drain. I mean, one king came up with a calendar, and he even accounted for the leap year. I mean, these people were smart.
Is this historical fiction?
Historical,
Yeah,
yes,
no
not fiction.
fiction.
No
No,
fiction
it's a
whatsoever.
history book. Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
it's a history book. It's
I was
out.
gonna-
Mary
there's,
Beard, is it? Or Mary?
There's a guy
Yeah,
named I think it's Rutherford, and he writes historical fiction.
okay.
And he's written London, Rome, New York. I've read New York and I've read London. And it's historic fiction, but it's very accurate. He does a good job. Yeah, Judy Powell's put me onto that series, but they're very weighty. It's not like I was telling Marilyn that I listen to stuff on my phone when I walk Zeke, but it can't be heavy, weighty stuff, because then that's when I end up flying through the air after a squirrel because I wasn't paying attention.
He counts on it.
Yeah.
He wants you to listen to that.
Holy mackerel!
Yeah, probably.
So real quick, can I ask you one real quick question?
Sure.
My aunt on the way to Long Grove, she always talks as if she knows the Bible, and everything she says is wrong. And this is case in point. She says, there's a song that came on K-Love, and it was Born Again, and she goes, "This is why you have to get baptized twice." And I go, "What?" She goes, "Yeah, that's what born again means." And I go, "No, it doesn't." And I go, "No, nowhere in the Bible does it say you have to be baptized twice." She's like, "You have to be fully immersed." And I go, "I don't think it says that anywhere either." And she's like, "Well, ask your pastor." And I said, "Being born again means like living life in Jesus, loving Jesus, and having a relationship with Him, and making Him a priority in your life."
Yeah,
That's
it means faith when you come to faith.
when you come to
You're
faith.
born again whenever you come to faith.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
So
we think that
so
as
if-
an infant.
if you think, yeah, well, it's whenever you come to faith. It may be if it may be infancy, it may be,
Well, I mean, when you're baptized.
yeah, right. Whenever that happens. I mean, so some people are not baptized as infants.
But those evangelicals can really mess your mind up if
But-
you engage them.
So not
They
everybody
did to me.
comes to faith at baptism.
Well,
we
how
have
can you if you're a baby?
right. Well, David Sullivan is a good example. He's one of our young men who is a lay minister. He wasn't baptized until he was confirmed because he hadn't been baptized as a baby, but he fully had faith. So he came to faith through the Word
Right.
at some point. Now, when does that happen? I don't
Sunday
know.
school. Sunday school.
Well, maybe. I mean, maybe it happens. They've proven that babies hear in utero, right? So if you're a pregnant woman in church, your baby is hearing what you're hearing. Now, there's some people who would argue with that and say, well, that's ridiculous. Babies can't understand that. And I would say, it's not based on our understanding. God's word works. So that's a good argument. If you're have a pregnant woman in your family, get her to church, because that baby is hearing the word even before he's baptized. So when does faith created? I don't know. I know that when I baptize him, it's for sure created, but maybe it's created long before that. So
That
thief
would be very good. I like that.
thief on the cross. He was never baptized. So born again comes from when Jesus is talking to Nicodemus in John 3, and Nicodemus is a Pharisee and isn't quite sure this Jesus character yet, so he sneaks in to talk to him at night because he didn't want to get caught talking to him by the other Pharisees. And Jesus says, you have to be born again. And Nicodemus says, come on, how can a grown man crawl into his mother's womb again? That's ridiculous. And Jesus talks about the Spirit. Yeah, born of the Spirit. And so when you're born of the Spirit, you're born again.
Okay.
Now, as far as baptism by immersion, that's one of they're starting to let go of that now because they've gotten so disproven. First of all, baptizo, the Greek word, does not mean immerse. It means pour.
Oh, they say it
Okay.
means immerse.
It does
don't
not
it?
mean. It means wash or pour. So when you do the dishes in a Greek household, you were baptizing the dishes.
Wow.
When you took a bath, you were baptizing it was just washing yourself, pouring water over yourself. Okay,
Wow.
that's number one. Number two is and this is archaeological, so I'm not as secure in this one as I am with the language, but I've been told that the place where they think Jesus was baptized, the Jordan River is about this deep. Because it goes way wide there, is where they think Jesus was being baptized, where John is baptized as Jesus. And so if Jesus was immersed, he got his face shoved into the bottom of the creek. You know what I mean? Because there's no way to immerse a grown
And I
man.
think he was baptized really up in the Galilee region. From what
Wherever that is, I don't know. I couldn't tell you because I don't have it in front of me. But what I've been told is that the Jordan River is very shallow, where they think he was baptized. Where we have those Sunday school pictures of him standing waist deep in the flowing Jordan River getting baptized, and probably not. But baptizo that's the best argument. Is it doesn't mean immerse; it means wash.
Oh my.
Yeah. To pour water over something to wash it. That's what it means.
Okay.
So you can baptize by immersion. That's certainly all right. Nothing wrong with that. You can baptize by pouring, which is what we do. We pour water over the person's head, or you can baptize by sprinkling. And there's our what do they call them? The priests have them. And they're like they look like microphones. Yeah. Asperges. That's what they are. Aspergium. And you can use that. That's fine. And you can sprinkle. They do that sometimes, and they shake the water out on the baby's head.
So born again means coming to faith.
Mm-hmm.
So it could be interpreted like, let's say, when you really start to want to live life in Christ type thing. Like, let's take me for example.
It has nothing to do with what you want.
Okay.
It has nothing to do. Born again has nothing to do with what you want, what you're doing, anything. It has to do when the Holy Spirit creates faith in you.
Oh, I like it.
Just like you had nothing to do with your physical birth.
Okay.
No one asked you if you wanted to be born. You didn't have to do anything to be born. It was all done to you.
Okay,
So physical birth and spiritual birth are very similar. And that's why Jesus talks about the second birth. He wants us to understand we got no part in this. Our only part is what we do with it. We can ignore it. We can let it die. We can let it, can live it on starvation rations, so it just barely limps along. Or we can feed it into a roaring fire.
So when the Spirit, born again, when the Spirit is born.
When the Spirit creates faith in you. It has nothing to do with you. It's when the Holy Spirit creates faith in you. Yep. And you can reference John 3. Is where we have the discussion with Jesus and Nicodemus, which finishes then with, for God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son, that whosoever believes in him should have eternal life. Yep. And then Jesus goes on, the part that we Lutherans leave out, to say, I did not come to condemn the world, but to save the world. Because it's really hard. It's hard to be humble when you're perfect in every way. As the country singer says. Baptizo means wash. Usually by pouring, but it means to wash. Yeah, think of washing the dishes. That was baptism for colloquial Greeks. Okay, we are in 2 Chronicles 16. Let's begin with prayer. Lord God, we give you thanks for gathering us together tonight around your word. And we ask you, Lord, to open your word to us, to make it relevant for us and help us to understand it. This we ask in your name. Amen. All right, 2 Chronicles 16, 1 through 4. So we finished last week with Asa facing the Ethiopian army, calling on God, and God destroys, because of King Asa of Judah, and God destroys the Ethiopians with all of their 1 million soldiers and 300 chariots, and it was just fantastic. And you just know that everything. 2 Chronicles 16, yeah. You just know that if Asa has seen this, he is going to be an amazing mouthpiece for God for the rest of his life. He's never going to ever doubt God again. Just like in our lives, when God does something for us, we never forget it, do we? Yeah, we do. Usually
yeah,
by the next week.
We certainly do.
Yeah. How many
But
times?
there are some things.
How many
that
times? Well, sometimes he
I
makes.
can hold on to.
God has furring strips, 2x4s, 4x4s, and railroad ties. I always tell people, don't make them get to the railroad tie. Learn before that. There's so many times. How many times are we going to be worried about this or that or the other thing? And I understand. I'm not saying that I'm holier than thou. I understand. We all do it. I do it too. Catch myself worried sick about something. And I have to remind myself, wait a minute, you're not driving this bus. You're just a passenger. Get back in your seat. I understand when I talk about it, don't think that I'm sitting on some mountaintop and telling you that I don't do this, because we all do it. We all fall into that temptation to worry about stuff that we're not in control of. Mm-hmm. Okay, Asa faced the Ethiopians. He had no idea what he was going to do. He had no way of winning that battle. He turned to God. God took care of him. Okay? How many times has that happened to us individually or us as a church? We've got. I will use this example for the rest of my ministry. Last year at this time, we were going broke. We were shutting the doors in 4 years. Everything was terrible. And by January, we were whatever it was, $20,000-$30,000 to the good. Okay, I understand. People will say to me, "Well, yeah, that's just because you had some rich people step forward." Actually, we didn't. Actually, it was everybody pulled. Everybody pulled, and it worked out. And the main thing is God was behind it. God said, "Oh, you need more." I always tell people, if we have a money problem around here, there's no such thing. You can't have a money problem in this congregation. We've got all the money in the world. It's in your pockets. We need to get it out and into the collection plate, and then we'll be fine. But God knows that. God knows how much money you have. God knows how much money you can give, and God moves you to do it. Okay? And the church is fine. And it was fine last year. It was fine the year before that. Every year I've been here for 20 years now. I've gone through. This is my 21st time to go through the budget cycle with this congregation, and I was so excited last month. We have never made a $15,000 gain in September.
Yeah.
And it wasn't one person who wrote a big check. It was a whole bunch of people who just pulled in more, gave more. It was phenomenal. I don't think people really understand how phenomenal that is. To think that, any 501c3 in the world would kill to have that. To be able to all of a sudden pull in $15,000 in a month when you expect it to continue. Usually keep going down in September.
Yeah.
Usually it's October when we start building up again. I'm hoping, I'm praying that this October will be fantastic too, and that we'll get to the budget meeting in November and there won't be any wringing of hands and, whining. But who knows? You never know. But I see it in my life, so many times. You've looked back in your lives and seen times when you were facing an illness or facing financial problems or facing kid problems or facing marriage problems or facing whatever. And at the time, it seemed overwhelming. At the time, you had to remind yourself, no, God's in control here. I kind of don't believe that, but I'm going to keep telling myself that until I do believe that. Because I see this wall of water getting ready to, I'm walking through the Red Sea, and there's a 20-foot wall of water here. I'm a little nervous about that, but I'm going to keep moving, We've got a sermon coming up sometime. I just finished doing sermon prep last week, so I've got all these sermons in my head still, and it gets a little confusing for me because sometimes I forget what era I'm preaching in, because I'll get ready to do like this week for Reformation. I pulled the sermon up that I wrote 6 months ago and thought, I don't remember writing this. That's not bad. You actually had a good idea there. Because I pull it up, the week I preach it, and I dust it off and fix it and do the things I need to do to it. But coming up sometime, we've got the Israelites crossing the Jordan River at Jericho, crossing over to Jericho, and again the same thing, right? The priests walk in, the water builds up on both sides, they hold the Ark of the Covenant, and all the people cross on dry land. It happened twice. We always remember the Red Sea, we forget Jericho.
I thought you just said the Jordan wasn't deep.
There it's deeper.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Jericho,
there
yes,
down
it
there.
is.
This is south. This is
Jericho.
just north of the Dead Sea.
Yeah, it's very south.
Okay.
Yeah, Jericho's further south from where they say. I mean, again, we don't know exactly where Jesus was baptized. They say they do, but it wasn't like John the Baptist put up a marker and said Jesus baptized here. Who knows? But they think he was baptized up further north where the Jordan is wider and shallower.
Yeah, I mean, I remember reading recently that in the last 6 months that he was baptized way up north, because
Yeah.
he's from that area.
Right.
Nazareth is right,
Nazareth,
off,
right.
off of the Sea of Galilee,
Yeah.
basically, to the west of it.
Yeah.
So so I mean that to me that's incredibly helpful to my faith to remember those people walking through those bodies of water on dry ground with nothing but the promise of God. Okay, they're going to drown if that water comes down. They're going to drown. There's no getting out of that. Okay, and then nothing but the promise of God, and they walk through, and not just a couple, over 1 million people. Yeah, over 1 million people walk through. Yeah, it's amazing.
And I've been hearing some things that I don't have the knowledge from the Bible in there, but have you ever heard somebody say that there were people who didn't follow Moses out of Egypt?
No, I've never heard anything about that.
That's okay. I've heard some crazy wacko thing, and
Yeah.
thank you. Good.
I suppose it's possible, but I can't imagine.
No. It's I don't know where that came from, but it was bad and stuck in my head.
Okay,
I've never read that.
so as I said, King Asa, one would think that he would never forget what happened with the Ethiopians, but here we are 2 chapters later in Chronicles, and it says, in the 36th year of the reign of Asa, Baasha, king of Israel, went up against Judah and built Ramah, that he might permit no one to go out or come in to Asa, king of Judah. Then Asa took silver and gold from the treasuries of the house of the Lord and the king's house, and sent them to Ben-Hadad, king of Syria, who lived in Damascus, saying, there is a covenant between me and you, as there was between my father and your father. Behold, I am sending you silver and gold. Go break your covenant with Baasha, king of Israel, that he may withdraw from me. And Ben-Hadad listened to King Asa, and sent the commanders of his armies against the cities of Israel, and they conquered Aijah, Dan, Abel-Maim, and all the store cities of the Naphtali. Okay, what do I want to go through? 14. Okay. And when Baasha heard of it, he stopped building Ramah and let his work cease. Then King Asa took all of Judah, and they carried away the stones of Ramah and its timber, with which Baasha had been building, and with them he built Geba and Mizpah.
Wow.
At that time, Hanai, the seer, came to Asa, king of Judah, and said to him, because you relied on the king of Syria, and did not rely on the Lord your God, the army of the king of Syria has escaped you. Were not the Ethiopians and the Libyans a huge army with very many chariots and horsemen? Yet because you relied on the Lord, he gave them into your hand. For the eyes of the Lord run to and fro throughout the whole earth to give strong support to those whose heart is blameless toward him. You have done foolishly in this, for from now on you will have wars. Then Asa was angry with the seer and put him in stocks in prison, for he was enraged with him because of this. And Asa inflicted cruelties upon some of the people at the same time. The acts of Asa, from the first to the last, are written in the book of the kings of Judah and Israel. In the 39th year of his reign, Asa was diseased in his feet, and his disease became severe. Yet even in his disease he did not seek the Lord, but sought help from physicians. And Asa slept with his fathers, dying in the 41st year of his reign. They buried him in the tomb that he had cut for himself in the city of David. They laid him on a bier that had been filled with various kinds of spices prepared by the perfumer's art, and they made a very great fire in his honor. All right, so apparently he lost the memory of what the Lord had done for him in a very short time. He's paying tribute to Syria, okay, and this goes on frequently in the Old Testament. Instead of relying on the Lord, they try to buy off another government. Okay, it happens with Egypt, it happens with Syria, it happens all over the place. The kings doing this. What does that remind you of in our life today?
Well, that's politics as usual.
Okay, politics. That's certainly true that some people believe that some political figure is going to be the Messiah. Yeah. We always have to remember that all politicians put their pants on one leg at a time. They're just human beings. We have to give them the slack that they're doing the best they can with what they have to work with, and Lord knows some of them don't have much to work with. And so they're not messiahs. So that's certainly true. Is to listen to some of the rhetoric coming out of both sides, you would think that this is the Messiah has come to rescue all of. No, it's just another human being. And we have a wonderful system of checks and balances in this country. That's why we've done so well for so long. Is the forefathers were guided because they were Christians. I don't care what you say. You can tell me they were deists all day long, but there were a lot of them who were Christians. And they believed that God was in charge. And they created a country like that. And they were led to do this checks and balances. I don't think, nobody ever thought of this before. They were the only ones who ever thought of it. Why? Where did that come from? I think it came from God. I think God
I think it
led
came
them.
from Rome.
Exactly.
Yeah.
They had the two parts of the Senate. They had the people,
Yeah,
and then the
exactly.
rich people.
Right, they
and
had the
they
two
kind of
houses
kept
just
it.
like
Yeah, they
we do.
kept each other in check.
They came straight from
They
Rome.
tried.
And they were, and the thing is too, I know they weren't governed by our God, but gods were behind their everything they did at that point. I mean, just
Well,
have
they
a
believed
higher
in-
power.
in their
And when you're guided by a
fallen
higher
angels.
power, it seems to.
Fallen angels that they
Help.
believed in.
Believing, as alcoholics will tell you, is even non-Christian alcoholics, it still works. The big book still works. Why? If they're not Christians, how does it work? Because you're right. A higher power humbles you.
Of some sort, and
Right.
same with the Romans, when they were the first people to have the divided Senate with the two
Yeah,
different
they-
groups that
exactly.
kept each other in check, and they were guided by their guides, not our God. But my point is, they were just guided by a higher power. And
They
that
believed
does
in
seem
a
to
higher
put
power, yeah.
people
All the
in-
Greeks, music, our musics, they're devils.
The interesting thing about
They're
that
demons.
is that
they're fallen angels that inspire music.
what
for
it's
the
it's
Greeks.
it's always it's different. It's hard when people say our God, their God, not our God, because on the one hand, I don't want to cross into universalism, where I say, well, all gods are the same. We're all worshiping the same God. On the other hand, we are, because how many gods are there? One. Everything else is some kind of bastardization of our God. So there are misunderstandings, misrepresentations of our God. But the idea of God only comes from our God, right?
Well,
Yeah.
but Satan said to Jesus, all these governments I will give to you, because they're for mine to give to whoever I will. If you bow down and worship me,
Right?
and that's what happened with the fall. Mankind fell, and the devil took over.
But what does that have to do with what I'm saying? I'm not sure.
They
I
are
didn't follow
gods.
you.
They are the gods of the pagans.
Little g's. Yeah, God with little g.
But they have power. I mean, these angels, whether they're fallen or
Oh, they have
good.
worldly power. Yeah, they
They
don't have eternal power.
No, they have.
Yeah.
They do have power. Though.
But there's only one God. Every other God, Buddha, Allah, that's all some kind of bastardization of our God. They've taken part of our God. I used to love Norman Nagel, was one of my favorite theologians of all times. And the thing he always said was, when you're trying to figure out where someone went astray, find the gift refusal point. At some point, you will refuse one of God's gifts, and that's where you go astray. Okay, so for instance, if you want to look at why do the Jehovah's Witnesses, why are they not Christian? Okay. Well, because they reject Jesus being God.
Yes.
They don't want Jesus to be God because that means they can't be God too. But if you make Jesus into a God, then we all get to be gods too. See? And so that's their whole thing, is you get to be, little gods. Or or even within denominations, any kind of pick any non-sacramental group, Baptist, Assemblies of God, holiness bodies, whatever. Why don't they believe in the sacraments? Because they reject the idea of God coming into us outside of our abilities. Just like what we were talking about with salvation. Yeah. See, it has nothing to do with us. They want to be a part of it. That person who rejects the sacraments rejects them because they don't want God coming into them without their permission, so to speak. They want to be part of the solution.
It's ego.
And and so it's the point is that you always have to remember there's this one whole God, and then there's these other things that human beings have created because they don't want the whole God. They want part of him, but they don't want all of him. Why Buddha? Because I want an eightfold path. Eightfold, or is it sevenfold? How many folds are there? It's 8 or 7. I want this path to be able so that I can become a sort of a demigod. And if I follow this path, then I get up there with Buddha. This is great. I want to be able to do this. And on the one hand, we applaud your virtue. That's what you live. If you've followed the Eightfold Path, you've lived a very virtuous, worldly, civilly good life. On the other hand, it gets you nowhere eternally. You might gain in worldly influence and power, like Mark said. They're these gods. You might become one of these demigods, okay? Or you might be following one of them unknowingly.
The Romans didn't know any better. I mean, they did know by the creation. But
Sure they knew better.
Yeah.
Where'd they come from? Everybody comes from Noah,
They
right?
came from Romulus and Remus.
Well, no, but everybody comes from
They
Noah.
did. The Romans, that's what they believe. They all came
That's what
from
they
this.
believe.
Yeah.
That's what they believe. Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
But let's say that Romulus and Remus really were the founders of Rome, and they were raised by wolves. They were. That's the story.
It's kind of a story like Cain and Abel.
Yeah.
It's funny how there's so many
There
similarities.
you go. See, there you go. Like you will find in every religion, you will find a flood narrative
of the truth.
Yeah, you'll find some kind of flood narrative. You'll find some kind of original Adam and Eve creation narrative. The Gilgamesh epic is the which one is it? Babylonian? Yeah, the Babylonian flood narrative. They all have it because it all comes from our God. Everything spins off from our God. And so, unfortunately, because human beings like King Asa are so arrogant and self-centered and self-righteous, they get to a point of saying, yeah, we don't want that part. We'll have this part of it. And I have a friend who talks about Chinese menu religion. I'll have 1 from column A, 2 from column B, and 3 from column C. If you go, how you order the family dinner at a Chinese restaurant, you pick what you want.
that.
Yeah, I do too, but not for religion.
You're from China Star? Have you ever tried China Star off Roosevelt?
Is it good?
Fantastic family dinner. Anyway, go ahead. Sorry. We love it. After Lam Ling closed, so we've been going to China Star.
Really?
And China Star, that's
Lam Ling close?
Yeah.
so sad.
Lam Ling
On
closed.
St. Charles?
Yes.
Yes. So did
Tai Fu closed.
A long time ago. There was that one, too.
I know, us too. And every Christmas Eve, we ate at Tai Fu. Between services, we'd go over to Tai Fu and eat.
What?
So,
It's off Roosevelt, right by Famous
Yeah,
Motors.
it looked kind of junky
And Old Town Pizza.
recently, and it was like, well,
Yeah,
it looks like
it's
there's no there today.
right,
Amazing.
yeah, they're redoing it. I don't know, I think it's supposed to come back as another Chinese restaurant, but I don't know which one.
What
Well,
is?
those people.
Tai Fu? Is it
Tai
supposed to
Fu's
come back?
been there since
It's
the
I don't know.
70s.
It looks run down now, really.
So, I mean, the people probably got tired.
Oh, the kids just won. Yeah.
Lam Ling is now like a poke bowl and ramen noodle place.
Forget it.
Exactly, that's what I say.
Oh,
Poke bowl.
What's it called?
I'm sorry, I can't
It's
eat a
like a
poke bowl.
poke bowl.
Poke bowl, yeah.
I'm probably saying it.
That's
No,
just too
no,
weird.
That's right.
It reminds me of Pokemon.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
what it reminded me of.
Pokemon eats a poke bowl.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, Pastor, I'm sorry, before we go on, just a quick question.
Well, Lord knows we're off on a flying tangent anyway, so go ahead.
I'll go along with this one, but when you're talking about these different gods and, you know, trying to make it their own, my brother is super into the universe. That the universe will provide him everything, he gives it to the universe. Is that the same type of thing?
yeah.
Because I always say that that's God for me. No, the universe is not, but that's like the way I
He
believe in God. He
believes in the universe.
Is that what we're talking about here when you say trying to?
Mhm.
Okay, same type of thing.
Yeah, that's real handy, the whole universe thing, because you can pick and choose whatever you like. And you can do whatever you want. And I can make the universe agree with me. Because who are you going to argue with me? If I say the universe says that we're all supposed to wear black, well, you and Mark and I and Mary are going to heaven. The other three of you, sorry, you know, Gray's a little closer, but Maryland's out. You know, I mean, and how are you going to argue with me? I can do anything I want. I can say anything I want, and you can't argue with me because I say, well, I believe that that's what the universe says. I believe, you know.
That's very popular.
Oh, absolutely,
Oh, yes.
absolutely. Where Christians say, no, if it's not in the Word, it's not. We're not following it. Well, some Christians say. I mean, there's some Christians that say we'll pick and choose what we want out of the Word too. But we here at this church, as for me and my house, you know, we say, here's the Word. This is what we believe. You might like it. You might not like it. It might. You might have to struggle with it. I love the metaphor of Jacob wrestling with God, because I think that's what he expects of us, is that we're supposed to wrestle with the and he's never the loser. Okay? Is that we never wrestle with God. Oh yeah, God was wrong. Turns out I'm right. No. The wrestling with God is figuring out why I don't agree or don't like.
But then still
Right.
ultimately agreeing and believing.
Right.
I always say the greatest faith has the most doubt. To
Right.
doubt it so much, but still have faith despite all that doubt, is the greatest faith. I mean, if you just take everything that your parents said, I believe, that can. But people so questioning it isn't necessarily a wrong
Right.
thing.
The metaphor that I've used over the years, especially with the kids, is sometimes I'll have a kid, particularly at confirmation high school age, who will say, you know, sometimes I doubt God. And does that mean I'm not Christian? And I'll say, well, I don't know. Do you have any doubts that the boogeyman lives under your bed? And they'll look at me and say, oh, Pastor, I don't believe in the boogeyman. That's why you don't think about him. Is because you don't believe in the boogeyman. The fact that you wrestle with God means you believe in God. Otherwise, you wouldn't wrestle with him.
Yeah.
Okay, there's hard stuff in the Bible. If people have heard nothing from me this year in my preaching, they've got to have heard that. There is hard stuff in the Bible, and I understand that. And I don't mean, sometimes I am because that's just the way I am, but I don't mean to be flippant about it. Okay, I don't mean to be flippant about it because it requires wrestling, and God intends for it to be wrestled with. You know, it's like the gym membership. You know, turns out I don't get enough exercise just writing the check every month. I actually have to go there. I do walk Zeke. Zeke has interfered with the gym a lot because it's just a time issue of it takes an hour to walk Zeke at least.
That's correct.
Yeah, that's exercise though. That's
It is,
great.
but it's not
And
weightlifting.
you're
I
holding
need to
them
lift
back,
weights.
so
Right.
Yeah.
And I'm going to the chiropractor for my arm for the times he saw the squirrel and I didn't.
Yeah.
Yeah. So so you're supposed to wrestle, and that's God's intent is for you to wrestle. I mean, look at Jesus. He said, I can't remember. I'm sorry, I can't remember if it was the sermon I'm working on or something I preached, but he was talking to the disciples, and they were questioning about something, and they were saying, "Oh, it was the rich man." That's what it was last week. And the disciples are saying, How is this possible? This is stupid. How is this possible? That if you have money, you can't go to heaven. And Jesus says, oh yeah, with man it's impossible. With God, all things are possible. I mean, the point right there is wrestle with this. Yeah, if you have money, wrestle with this. If you don't have any money, you don't have anything to wrestle with. That's why sometimes the poor are better off, spiritually speaking. There's less to wrestle with. But if you have money, wrestle.
But it doesn't mean the parable of the rich man. It wasn't that just that he's saying you got to give all your money to be. It was because I was asking Marilyn. She's sitting next to me during that sermon. It means that the money took the place of that guy's faith, and that's why the money had to be given up. Right? Like he's not. Jesus isn't telling everyone to. You got some money in the bank. You need to give it all to the poor. He's not saying that. He's just saying for that man.
No, you're supposed to give it all to your pastor. Yeah, you write a check. Write a check, yeah. For the pastoral hot tub. For the pastoral hot tub.
Pastoral hot tub?
Yes, the pastoral hot
I
tub.
would contribute to a church hot tub. That'd be fun.
They gave me one for my 34th anniversary. They gave me a
Oh,
hot tub.
hot tub?
In your house?
No.
Oh.
Here, yeah, it's big enough for about one adult, and it has to be blown up, and it's not hot unless you pour hot water in it, and the bubbles will have to come from someplace else. I'm not saying where, but I'm just saying Neil lives with me. Okay, so no, we haven't used it yet. No, it's in the back of my closet. I haven't blown up the pastoral hot tub yet. That's been a running joke here for 20 years. The pastoral hot tub. Yeah, and actually, Pastor Hoiser up at Zion in Bentonville got one. His congregation bought him a hot tub.
A real one.
Yeah, they really do.
Did you tell everybody that?
I have. I've tried to tell as many people as possible.
Your side yard there would be a perfect place for it.
That's what
It
I'm
really
saying.
would.
That's what I'm saying. There you go, pastoral hot tub.
Kidding me.
Yeah, no, they bought. Well, he did have health issues. I think that was part of it.
Is he still alive?
Yeah.
Is he still pastor then?
Pastor Hoiser, yeah.
But he does have health
Yeah,
issues.
he had some health issues that he needed it for.
Did
and
he
they-
lose
yeah.
that weight?
I don't think so.
Last time at
I like standing next to him because it makes me feel svelte.
Paul Gold, he was limping then.
Yeah. Yeah, he was having a hard time.
Yeah.
Okay, so why is he paying tribute to Syria? Because he didn't trust God. It's that simple. He doesn't trust God. And I'm not casting aspersions here, because there have been times when I haven't trusted God. And I've done stupid stuff because I was trying to fix something that God was standing back and looking at me and going, I already have that handled. What are you doing? Why are you doing this? Right? But at the time, I was bound to determine I was going to fix this, rather than say, well, God, I don't know what to do. It's up to you. That's why I remind people all the time that this is God's church, not ours. We serve here, but this is not our place. It's his place. And if he wants it to thrive, it'll thrive. If he wants it to close up and die, it'll close up and die.
Oh, he can close them up, and I mean,
So it's
that Crystal Cathedral by the Heretic.
Remember the harvest, the big thing in
Boom.
Northwest Heaven,
Gone.
Palatine? That James McDonald was his name. He got caught embezzling so much money. I mean, the church is still there, but who knows what's happening? I mean,
it would be a sad, sad case if I went to jail for embezzling from here.
And
It's
this great,
sad case. Well, yeah, he took $25 right out of the offering illegally. Yeah.
this guy in the '80s, Lester Summerall. He was just one of these Pentecostal preachers. Had this incredible ministry, television stations, satellites, billions of dollars worth of stuff. Well, he was a little dictator, little Hitler, and he taught falsely, and he allowed false teachers to have a place in his ministry, and that is not good. And I even had a dream that the whole place was a mess and had fallen apart. And I just read, like, in the last year, this has happened maybe 5 years ago, but the whole thing did collapse. the whole ministry went
Well,
down the tubes.
Yeah, all ungodly ministries eventually do.
Well,
And you know who has the assets? A grandson of his, who is an atheist and a communist. So he has all those TV stations. They were granted to him.
Okay, I got to move on.
oh, interesting.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
What does Jesus say? This is from what we talked about Sunday about the love of money is the root of all evil, and it's easier for a camel to get through the eye of a needle than for a rich man to enter heaven. What does he mean by this? And how does this apply to Asa? When Jesus is telling us these things, I mean, Jesus knows all about Asa, so it's not like
Is that when you have money, it's hard to not make money your idol?
yeah.
Is that what he means?
The more you have, the harder it is.
to not put it in front of God.
Yeah, yeah, and I understand. I didn't understand that until I served a really, really rich congregation, full of really, really rich people. I mean, really rich. I mean, these people's foyers were bigger than my whole house. Not kidding, not in the least. I mean, they went for ski trips to Austria on the weekend. Things like that. They'd fly out Friday night to Austria to ski for the weekend. Things. I mean, money that I had never had contact with. And I began to see how hard it was for them. And some of them were quite good at making sure that God remained first in their lives. But it was a challenge. One of the lay people there who was really, really wealthy was very involved with youth ministry as well. And so helped me a great deal because I was the youth pastor at that church. She talked to me about her wrestling, with affluence and I mean flat out riches, and struggling, not having any challenges in life because of that. But she had other kinds of challenges. I mean, she had huge, and she would talk about how she would, for the other challenges she had, she would trade all of her money to get rid of the other challenges, which were, far worse. And I would talk to her about that. I would say, hey, there's no human being on this earth without struggles. Some people don't have any struggle with money. That's great. But they have other things. And from my seat, where I get to see everybody's lives on display, I know that there's no person in this congregation that either is not struggling now or has not struggled in the past with something. Everybody has struggles. There's just and it's so hard because sometimes people look from the outside and they see, the perfect little family sitting there with the, 2.3 children in the Volvo in the garage, and they think, oh, they're a perfect family. And I know what's going on, and of course I can't say anything, but I so want to tell people there's no perfect family. Everybody has a struggle at some time or another. And maybe your struggle is like huge for you, but Marilyn would look at it and say, well, that's no big deal. But her struggle is huge for her, and you would say, what are you struggling about? That's no big, because the struggles are very individual.
Yes.
And I think that Satan does that on purpose. Okay, I think
Well, he wants us
he
to
tailors
give
the
up on
struggles
God.
to try to nail us. I mean, I think he works very hard. I talk about, when you're young, temptation is like a shotgun blast. Okay, everything is out there, and I think he very carefully watches to see what you pick up on. If it doesn't bother you, he's not going to he's not going to mess with it. He's smart. He's evil, but he's smart. Okay, never underestimate the brilliance of Satan. Okay? He is smart, and he does his homework. And then as you grow older, he watches and watches and watches until at some point he's got it narrowed down, and he knows exactly what's going to get you. Okay? You could, and I always use this as an example for myself. You could lay out. Let me see if there's a question here. Yeah, same thing about everyone's sins. Their struggle. Yeah, that's what Dr. Billadu has to say.
Oh, so this is being all recorded again?
Yeah, we're online.
Okay, because usually you would say we're going to go online now.
Oh, I did, but you didn't hear. I mentioned it. But anyway, so yeah, as we haven't been on task the whole night. So, I use myself as an example of that. Is that you could line up alcohol bottles from this end of the table to the other doesn't tempt me in the least. A bottle of scotch, I like really good scotch. I don't like cheap scotch, but it lasts me a year. A bottle of scotch lasts me a year. So it just doesn't, I don't think about it. I don't care about it. Once in a while, I'll look at it. Oh, I think I'll have a scotch, but a plate of brownies, I can't leave them alone. I'm not kidding you. It's not for me, it's not a thing of saying, ha ha ha, I can't leave those brownies alone. I literally, if they're in the house, I will eat them.
Yeah, I know.
They have to go in the freezer or have to go away.
Sometimes they're better in the freezer.
Thank God you and Brian live next door, because we keep on sending it over to your house.
All the cakes.
Oh yeah.
You can bring it on over.
Neil says the Jerishes made them 3 individual cakes for tasting for their wedding. I mean, I'm sure not everybody gets that kind of treatment, but he was really kind to Neil. And so they gave him 3 complete cakes for tasting. And so we tasted them. Okay, that's great. We picked out. And what are we going to do with 17 pounds of cake? And Neil says, "Oh, take them next door." Off they went.
What did you do? Did you freeze them then?
We ate them and then we did freeze them. But then I found out that when it comes to frosting, if it's frozen, it's even better.
Oh yeah.
Whoa, it's better?
Like the middle, the stuff
Yeah,
in the
yum.
middle, especially if it's like real whipped cream. Oh God. Yeah. So then that didn't work. So yeah, eventually then we got a couple things, and then Neil said, "I'm like, no, we need to be done."
Yeah, yeah, because he took more of it.
Sorry, because I'm like eating this in the middle of the night now.
I told him, get it out. You got to get it out of the house. Frank Ilkin says donuts, on the other hand.
True. I'm a donut.
Yep, me too. Okay, so what did the prophet have to say to Asa? What did the prophet say to him?
The seer.
The seer. Yeah,
She didn't go to God.
that's just another name for prophet.
Because you relied on the king of Syria and did not rely on the Lord your God, the army of the king of Syria has escaped you. So now the people that he tried to get in cahoots with now are double down,
And
betraying
war will be upon your house for the rest of your life.
him. Really?
Yep.
So like
Yep.
backfired on him. Yeah.
Yep. From now on, you will have wars. And what was Asa's response?
He got angry.
Yeah, he got mad.
And put him in the prison.
That's not unusual, okay? Get used to it. When you tell people the truth, sometimes they're going to get mad. Those of us at the table who are attorneys know this. When you tell people the truth, sometimes they're going to get angry, and they get angry with you because they don't want to hear the truth. And sometimes attorneys have to tell hard truth. I mean, life and death truth. Although I know you don't deal a lot with that realm, but some criminal attorneys particularly have to tell life and death truth. Doctors have to tell life and death truth. Not Dr. Billadew, because she knocks people out and then doesn't have to deal with them. See if I get a response on that one. Yeah, that's why she likes anesthesia. It's like, yeah, just knock them out. She told me the other day, oh, here she is. Yep. She told me the other day, she says, I love kids. Yeah, she's going into pediatric anesthesia. She says, I love kids. And they're so cute, and they're all sweet. And then I just knock them out and I don't have to deal with them.
He needs to come to my classroom. Yeah.
Well, as long as she brings plenty of whatever it is, what's the one that starts with a K?
Ketamine?
Ketamine. Yeah. She can bring an extra dose of ketamine, and
That's for horse tranquilizer. They don't
Yeah,
do that to
they use it.
people, do
Oh
they?
yeah. That's a prime.
Well, I mean, people are addicts. People use it
No. I mean,
recreationally, but
anesthesiologists use it all the time.
Really?
Not for kids. Apparently, kids come out of what they call it the K-hole, because when you come out of the K-hole, you're completely disoriented. You got no idea what's up, what's down. It's oh, here she is. She's going to correct me. Yep, nitrous for everyone. And yes, it's so fun watching kids see unicorns and rainbows. Adults, not so much. But apparently kids, because of their active brains and imaginations and all, they do not do well with ketamine. Apparently, that's what I've been told by the doctor. But who knows? I'd give it a try. Maybe for confirmation one day. Ketamine for everyone. Don't take that literally. Nobody report me to DCFS. I'm not giving children ketamine. Yeah, so it's not scary for kids. It's for adults, especially if PTSD. Ketamine is scary, I guess. So yeah, they use ketamine all the time. They use ketamine and propofol and all the stuff that killed Michael Jackson and killed Prince too. Both of them died from overdoses. I think of either ketamine or propofol or both. I can't remember which. But yeah, it's good
They
stuff.
take it as a tablet.
I don't know.
They take it as-
But
I just know that if it were sold at Walgreens, I'd be first in line.
So ketamine actually puts you out.
Oh yeah,
Unlike, let's say, fentanyl.
fentanyl.
Is it?
I don't
No,
know.
well, for my finger surgery, remember my fingers, which looks like hell, by the way, they're not healing well at all. And then when I woke up, I asked them, what'd you give me? And they said fentanyl. And of course, me being me, can I get some more?
Yeah, right.
I swear that's what I said. And they said you have to stay here for another 45 minutes. We can give you more. I'm like, no, it's all right. But
Yeah, I'm the
So,
poster
but the-
child for why it's not sold at Walgreens.
yeah, I mean, if you can give it to me fentanyl and it's safe, yeah, bring it. No, okay. But fentanyl isn't going to knock you out. It's for the pain. Will fentanyl knock
Okay,
you out?
Dr. Billadu, the question is, does fentanyl knock you out? It's for the pain, but does it knock you out? And the answer is, the judges say. Okay, well, she'll answer.
She just wrote back.
Oh no, she's. Yes, fentanyl does knock you out.
Okay, interesting. But they don't use it for anesthesia.
Do you use it for anesthesia?
No.
She's writing.
Okay.
I don't need an entire dissertation. Just a yes or no
Yes
will
or
do.
no.
Ketamine is like the IV form of LSD, hence the trip. And yes, we use it for anesthesia.
Interesting.
Yeah, fentanyl.
Fentanyl.
Yeah.
Okay.
Fentanyl, yes. Yeah.
Okay.
So for all of your drug needs, just come to Bible study, and we'll have the expert give the answers. When I hurt my back, I blew out 2 discs
Oh.
when I was 30 years old or so, and I was in bed for 2 weeks. And we went good IV opioid. Okay, yeah. And she says, "I got you. Don't worry." And so I was on Percocet, this constant Percocet, and then for about a month or so, I was taking it and doing physical therapy and all that stuff. But anyway, I couldn't take off from work for a month, so I kept working, on Percocet. And then I got off of it, and one of the kids in high school Bible, I taught the high school Bible study on Sunday mornings, and one of the kids did something or said, I snapped at him, and he looked at me and says, "We liked you better when you were stoned." I said, "I liked me better when I was stoned too." Okay, why the disease of the feet? That's kind of a fun thing.
I don't think.
Asa dies and he has a disease of the feet. So I don't think there's a categorical answer for that.
No.
But there is an interesting proposition that was put forward by one of the concordances I read, or one of the commentaries I read, is that he put the prophet in stocks. Remember, they would put stock to your feet and your hands, and often people would come by and would smack your feet with like sticks. They'd spank your feet, the bottom of your feet when you were in stocks. That was a
That's
common
good
thing.
observation.
And so that's what the commentator's suggestion was. Maybe Asa got what he doled out. He got some kind of horrible disease of the feet. Yeah.
1612 disease in the feet is affected, related to his putting the prophet. in
Oh, do they say it in the study Bible?
Yes,
That's in
they do.
the
Oh.
little footnote.
Oh, okay. Good. So they picked up on the same thing. All right. What do we learn about our lives from King Asa? Okay. Number 1.
Trust God.
Yeah. Turn to God,
Yeah.
not human ingenuity.
Yeah.
And, and it's more than trust. Because I trust my sister, but I don't call her up and ask her to help me with things. I don't call her up and say, "Hey, I've got this problem I need your help with." So it's not just trust. It is trust, but it's not just trust. It's turning to God.
It's turning the other cheek. Everyone
Well-
thinks that Jesus means that it means to slap the other cheek. No, what it means is turn the other cheek to God. Turn to God and let Him solve your problems for you. That's what that Jesus means when He says turn the other cheek.
Where'd you get that?
Yeah.
I've never heard that before.
In this book that describes the Sermon on the Mount and stuff.
Huh.
It's really good. It's written
Interesting.
by some English guy.
That's an interesting idea.
Yeah.
I always thought that meant like to.
Well, most
let
people take
let
it as
go.
let it go. Yeah,
I like that.
yeah.
Yeah,
That's
and
interesting.
featured,
That's an
yeah.
interesting. Text me the title of that book.
You
will you?
got it. This book is fantastic.
Okay.
It's like falling apart. I've lost the cover, everything.
Yeah,
I've read so
text me
many
the
times.
title of it, so I
Okay.
might pick that up. That's an interesting idea. I don't know if it has credence or not, but I'd like to look at it.
Okay.
But yeah, so turning to God means to put it in His control and to stop trying to control it yourself. And then people will say, when you say that, well, yeah, but God gave us a brain. Yes, I understand that, and God intends you to use it, believe it or not. But you can't solve every problem.
No, that's for sure.
If you can, whatever you can solve, do.
That's for sure.
Do what you can do. Okay? I mean, like, I remember Sophie Gloss. I don't know if any of you ever knew Sophie. She was Olinda Sperry's mother. And I used to go see her every month before she died. And Sophie always felt guilty because she couldn't give any, well, not much. She gave something, but she couldn't give much to the church. She couldn't come up here and help. She could, she lived on Social Security, and not big fancy Social Security like some people have, but little bitty Social Security, and so she felt terrible. She always felt terrible that she couldn't do anything. And I said, Sophie, you do what you can do. Okay, you decide. You figure out what you can do to serve God, and do that. Don't try to do something that I'm doing, or your neighbor's doing, or Linda's doing. Do something that you can do. And she told me, she says, well, I can pray. And I said, good. And I gave her a church directory, and I said, I want you to pray through this directory every month. I want you to pray for every person in this directory. So for years, you were being prayed for every month by Sophie Gloss, even though you didn't know it. Because she would tell me when I went to see her every month, yep, I got through it, Pastor. I got through it. Yeah. But that's what she could do. She couldn't walk. She couldn't, she couldn't go out. She couldn't come to church. She didn't have any money to give, or any more than she could give. She did give regularly. I just want to make that point because a lot of times people think that just because their checks aren't big, they're not important. Regular giving is hugely important, whether that's weekly or monthly. Regular giving is hugely important to the church because that's how we continue paying for ministry. When I go to Jewel, I kind of need a paycheck because they don't care how much I love Jesus. They want money. Yesterday, a gallon of milk, 2 packages of storage containers, 3 containers, 12 packs of Coke, and a loaf of bread. $59.
You're kidding me.
$59.
Yeah.
Yeah. Pretty soon, we're going to be raising chickens. It's
You got a
ridiculous.
great side yard for
I
it.
don't think that hadn't escaped me. Okay.
If you ever want to do that, I'll go into it with you.
You're gonna have
There's
chickens in the hot
I want
tub.
chickens too. And
No, you need that. You
You'll
need
have
to have
problem.
somebody to take care of the chickens when you're gone.
We
I
can-
because you
looked
have
into
to go. My sister has a chicken coop. When they go, I have to go and get the eggs.
We could
and
fix
move the
the-
chicken.
yeah,
and
fix the
I
back
actually
gate.
know a lot about it.
Yeah. You have to have someone take care of chickens.
Danya, don't listen to Valerie.
Oh, Danya's on there.
Oh, she wants chickens. Yeah.
Let's
oh,
get
she's on.
chickens, Danya.
No, don't get chickens. They're not meant for,
But
no.
if you're gonna
It
have,
is, dude. Have you ever
Think-
had a fresh,
think
still
how-
wet
how-
egg?
Yeah,
It is awesome.
She came from a farm.
I came from a farm.
but if you're gonna have chickens to eat,
Think how happy the neighbors would be with a rooster.
All about chickens. And
Oh,
I mean, you get it just so
Dr.
that
Billadu
time.
says, also, I'm on Team Val for chickens.
you can't have roosters
Chickens
here.
carry
No.
diseases.
Not in Lombard.
Oh,
Yes.
Lombard, I don't know. But you can't.
we're very progressive in Lombard.
What?
We're very progressive in Lombard.
But I think in Lombard,
Where'd she get from
I
them?
you have to,
There's people down the prairie path that I walk by, they have chickens.
you might, but I think they wanted to have permits because people didn't want.
Zeke's very interested in the chickens.
Oh, that would be that would be
Oh,
be
the dogs
problematic.
will just kill the chickens.
That Zeke would really.
He can't get back there, though. So if we put it in the backyard, love the dog
Okay,
run.
because he jumps over that like a
Flies.
Ask him
like
to jump.
something beautiful.
Yeah,
I
he
mean,
just flies.
It's a
The
quite-
flying husky.
Yeah.
Acting faithful, here's another thing. Acting faithful and being faithful are not necessarily synonymous. Okay, acting faithful, things we can learn from Asa. Acting faithful and being faithful are not necessarily synonymous. So it's like the person who says, well, I want to get married at Trinity. Okay, I don't know who you are. Well, my grandmother was a founding member. That's nice. I'm very happy that your grandmother was a founding. Well, I'm a faithful Christian. Where do you worship? Well, sometimes here, sometimes there. Hey, well, sorry, I wasn't here for your grandma, and sometimes I do give in to that one with certain just because grandma's still around, and it'd break her heart if I didn't let the granddaughter or grandson get married here. But I would like for you to be a faithful member here or somewhere. I mean, it's fine if you're a faithful member over at Peace and Lombard, but this is your grandparents' church and you want to get married. I'm fine with that. I can talk to the pastor at Peace and Lombard and we can work something out. But we don't get into heaven on our grandma's coattails. Acting faithful is one thing. Anybody can act faithful. Being faithful is only something you and God can talk about, because I can't see into your heart. So all I can judge by is your actions. That's all I can judge by. So for me, if you ask me to show somebody who's faithful, I'm going to look for somebody who gives of their time, their talent, and their money to the church. Time, talent, and money. That's the only way I can judge faithfulness, because I can't see in your heart. You might be, someone who never gives a dime, never goes to church, and you might be strongly faithful Christian. That's between you and God, but I can't see it. So the only way we can measure it is by, and that's why, when we purge the rolls, which we do every, I don't know, I hate doing it, so it's usually every 10 years. I think I've done it 3 times, so maybe it's more like 8. But I send 3 letters over a 3-month period saying, I don't want to take you off the rolls. I'd really like to know where you are. Please let me know. And there's always 3 groups of people when we do this. The first group says, oh yeah, we've moved to Iowa. I forgot to tell you, sorry. The second group says, yeah, we haven't been there. We haven't attended, but we really like to stay a member, and we really want to get back sometime. Okay, that's great. Third group says, I am so offended. I can't believe you even suggest this. And my grandmother was a member of this church. Hey, great. Send her over. All right, so if God can do, number 4, if God can defeat 1 million Ethiopians, maybe my problem is not quite as big as I thought. That's a key lesson we learned from King Asa. If God can defeat 1 million Ethiopians, maybe my problem is not quite as big as I thought it was. Sometimes my biggest problem is a fly speck to God. That's and it doesn't mean God doesn't care. That's what I'm saying. Don't hear that God doesn't care about you. Presentation versus actions works. Interesting. That's what Frank says. Frank Ilkin. Presentation versus action/works. Yeah. That's good about the being faithful and acting faithful. But yeah, it's. I don't mean to say that your problem's not important. I understand whatever our problem is, it's important to us, right? And maybe our whole family, and maybe our neighbors, and I don't know who else. But the point is that it's a fly speck to God. This is a God who can split seas. This is a God who can raise the dead. This is a God who does amazing things. It's not a big deal to him. He can handle it. And if he doesn't handle it, it's because you're supposed to go through it. He's teaching you something. Stop asking why. That's another sermon that's coming up, by the way, in January. Don't ask why, ask what.
What?
Okay. Don't ask why, ask what. Stop asking, God, why are you doing this? God, why me? God, why can't you help me? Ask, what are you teaching me? What are you showing me? What am I supposed to learn from this?
But what's the fine line between I'm going to sit back and let God do it, handle it, and actually
Right.
doing it yourself?
Stewardship is the thing to keep
You
in
can do it
mind.
yourself.
So God's given you abilities. God's given you a brain. God's given you a certain amount of money. God's given you an occupation. God's given you lots of stuff to work with. Do what you can. That's good stewardship. Okay? So I walk, I try to watch my diet, I do things, go to the doctor regularly for checkups, not because I'm trying to live longer, because I know that God's already set that date. My expiration date's already set. Okay? I don't have to worry about living longer, but I want to live fuller. I want to be able to do what he wants me to do for as long as I can do it. Okay, so I want to be able to serve him. I mean, if I have my say about it, a long time yet. I want to be able to serve him. I can't do that from a nursing home. Okay, so I'm going to try to stay as, huh?
You can.
Well, yeah.
But not in your.
But if I'm in a wheelchair drooling and looking out the window because I've had a massive stroke, it's going to be hard. So I want to keep as strong as possible for as long as possible. That's stewardship. That's good stewardship. Now, if I get cancer, and and it's terminal, there's nothing I can do about that. That's God's problem, not mine. Okay.
So he knows our birthday. He knows when we're going to die.
Yes.
Mhm.
So the example you're giving is he's in control of that for sure, but
Mhm.
you have control of keeping yourself healthy.
He gives you the control of the quality. Yeah, he gives you control to a certain extent. He doesn't give you full control, but you're like, picture when you were a little girl sitting on your father's lap and he let you steer. That's kind of what our life is like. Is we're sitting in God's lap and he lets us steer. He doesn't let us run off the road. He doesn't let us crash into a tree, but he lets us steer a little bit. Living by faith is a daily battle, not one and done. That's what Asa forgot. That living by faith is a daily battle. It is not one and done by any means. So if you failed miserably today, you get to start all over again tomorrow. Yeah, it's okay. Give yourself a break. Realize, I didn't do so well today. I'm going to try to do better tomorrow. That's what the Christian life is all about, is living by faith. Not I lived by faith. I live by faith every day. And I know that there are going to be some days when I fall into the pit, and there are going to be some days when I'm on the mountaintop. And hopefully, we aim for more mountaintops than pits. Sometimes we don't hit it. Okay, anything, last thoughts? We're over time, so.
Zeke is on the calendar, November 2025.
Yes, he is. All right, let's close with the blessing. The Lord bless us and keep us. The Lord make his face shine upon us and be gracious unto us. The Lord that his countenance upon us and give us peace. Amen.
Forget the pet calendar.
Yeah, it's on Danya.